I never thought I'd be the one keeping everything together at 28. Most people my age are focused on their careers or figuring out their lives. But here I am, trying to manage my own life while also paying for almost everything my family needs. My name is Emma, and this is my story. My sister Lily, who is 3 years older than me, had what my mom calls a career setback a year ago. That's putting it nicely. The truth is, Lily had a complete breakdown when she didn't get the promotion she wanted. Instead of handling it professionally, she quit on the spot, burning bridges faster than a wildfire. I can still remember the day she sobbed into my shoulder, her voice filled with disbelief and anger. "I can't believe they picked Brianna over me," she had cried. "Do you know how long I've worked there? How hard I've tried?" I had listened, thinking she just needed to vent. I thought she'd calm down in a few weeks, maybe even find a better job. That's not what happened. 7 months passed while she processed everything, and then another 7 months of only applying to certain jobs with crazy requirements like 5-day weekends and unlimited vacation time. Meanwhile, I was the one making sure my parents' bills got paid, their fridge had food, and Lily could keep seeing her therapist 4 times a week. The therapy is really helping her, Mom would say as I transferred another chunk of my paycheck to their account. She's making progress from where I stood. All I saw was more money leaving my bank account. I saw Lee sitting around at our childhood home, scrolling through job listings with unrealistic expectations while I was working overtime at my marketing job, taking on extra clients and barely having time to breathe. This past year has been exhausting for all of us. I could see the stress on my parents too. Mom's face had more worry lines, and Dad's shoulders slumped lower every time Lily turned down another job for not being good enough. Looking at my tired parents, I knew we all needed something good to look forward to. That's when I started planning a trip to Rome just for the three of us. I spent weeks organizing everything down to the smallest detail, the perfect hotel, private tours, and experiences just for them. A cheese tasting tour for Mom. She had always dreamed of trying real Italian cheese, and a vineyard and wine tour for Dad, who loved a good glass of red. I thought this trip would be perfect, a way for us to forget the stress and create happy memories. I imagined us walking along the Tiber, sharing wine at cozy cafes, and finally seeing my parents smile again without worry on their faces. But life can change in a second. One moment I was driving to meet a client, thinking about my presentation and our trip the next day. The next, there was a loud crash, the screech of metal, and then nothing. I don't remember much about the accident, just bits and pieces, sirens, paramedics talking, bright lights overhead. When I fully woke up, I was in a hospital bed, my whole body aching like one giant bruise. The doctor said I needed emergency surgery, but it had gone well. Still, I wouldn't be leaving anytime soon. "You're very lucky," a nurse told me as she adjusted my IV. "The airbag saved you from the worst of it, but that other car hit you hard." I was still groggy when my parents and Lily walked into the room. Mom was holding her favorite travel purse, the one she bought just for the Rome trip. Seeing it made my stomach drop. "I'm so sorry," I said, my voice scratchy from the breathing tube. "We'll have to postpone the trip." "Don't worry, I'll cancel everything today, and we can go when I'm better." I expected them to be understanding, maybe even a little disappointed, but still supportive. But what happened next, I wasn't ready for. Instead of comfort, Mom spoke in an oddly calm voice. "Oh, there's no need to cancel anything, honey." I blinked, sure that the painkillers were making me hear things wrong. "What?" I managed to ask. "Your dad and I have been talking," she said, adjusting her purse strap. "We think we should still go. You can rest here and we'll take Lily with us instead." Her words hit me harder than the car that crashed into me. I stared at them, waiting for someone to say it was a joke. Lily stepped forward. "You were supposed to watch the house while we were gone," she said. "Since you can't, you'll need to hire someone. Make sure they're reliable." I lay there, my mouth open, unable to speak. This couldn't be real. My own family was standing there, talking about their vacation while I was lying in a hospital bed, less than a day after major surgery. Then they actually waved and walked out, leaving me alone with the steady beep of the heart monitor and the painful realization that they had just abandoned me for a trip I had planned and paid for. I lay in bed for what felt like hours, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it. The pain meds couldn't dull the ache in my chest, the one that had nothing to do with my injuries. They didn't even ask how I was feeling, not about the surgery, not about the accident, not about anything. A nurse passed by for the third time, probably noticing my heart rate going up on the monitor. She stopped in the doorway, concern on her face. "Everything okay, honey? Your numbers are a bit high." "My phone?" I said, suddenly remembering. "Could you please get my phone? It should be with my things." A few minutes later, she returned with a plastic hospital bag. My hand shook slightly as I pulled out my phone, relieved to see it wasn't damaged. The screen lit up with my old background, a Christmas picture of me and my parents. I quickly changed it to the default wallpaper. At least something survived the crash, I muttered to myself. Then I opened my email app. There it was, my Rome trip folder, full of all the confirmations and plans I had worked so hard on. I stared at it for a moment while I said to myself, my fingers hovering over the first email, if they want to treat me like a travel agent instead of a daughter, I'll act like one. And one by one, I started canceling everything. One by one. First, the hotel, a few clicks, and the beautiful suite with a view of the Municipio 9 was gone. Next, all the private tours, Mom She's tour, canceled, Dad's wine tour, gone, the private guide for the Piazza Navona, the evening cruise on the Tiber, the skip the line passes for the Colosseum, I canceled them all. With each cancellation, I felt a mix of emotions, sadness, yes, because I had dreamed of enjoying these experiences with my parents, but also something else, not exactly satisfaction, but maybe justice. They had treated my accident as an inconvenience, choosing to take Lily, who hadn't worked or contributed anything in a year, on a trip that I paid for while I lay in a hospital bed. The last thing left to cancel was their return flight. I stared at the confirmation for a long moment before clicking the button. A small, petty part of me wondered how they'd react when they realized they had to figure out their own way home. Once everything was canceled, I put my phone on silent, placed it face down on the bedside table, and closed my eyes. They'd figure it out soon enough. Maybe somewhere over the Atlantic, they'd realize that actions have consequences, even in families. Maybe when they landed in Rome with no hotel, no tours, and no flight home, they'd finally understand what it feels like to be abandoned and left to figure things out alone. The first message came at 3:25 a.m. They must have just arrived in Rome and gone to check into the hotel. My phone lit up on the table, buzzing silently. Despite the pain in my ribs, I smiled a little. By breakfast, I had 15 missed calls. By lunch, 40. The messages started piling up too. I kept a little tally on the back of my hospital meal menu. Just for fun, missed calls, Mom, 25, Dad, 18, Lily, 48, text messages, 50 and counting, voicemails, 21. I smirked, letting myself imagine the scene in Rome. Let's see what's so urgent that they blow up a hospital patient's phone. When the count passed 51, I finally picked up my phone, wincing as I moved. Lily's messages were first. How could you be so cruel and selfish? We're standing in the hotel lobby with nowhere to go. You're absolutely heartless. Then Mom, Emma, I am so disappointed in you. This isn't how we treat family. We've never done anything like this to each other before. I don't understand why you're doing this to us, your parents. I stared at the screen, shaking my head. Now they wanted to talk about family. I couldn't help but laugh, even though it hurt my stitches. We've never done anything like this to each other before? Really? What about leaving your injured daughter in the hospital to go on a vacation she paid for? Dad's messages were shorter but just as demanding. Call now. Fix this immediately. Your mother is crying. The phone wouldn't stop buzzing. New messages popped up faster than I could read them. The hotel won't let us check in. Where are our tour reservations? What do you mean you canceled the return flights? Answer your phone right now. I was reading a particularly nasty message from Lily about how I had ruined everything when Dr. Olivier walked in, looking serious. Miss Wilson, your phone has been ringing nonstop for hours. This is a hospital, not a call center. We need a quiet environment for all our patients. I felt my face heat up with embarrassment. I'm sorry, doctor. It's just before I knew it, I was explaining everything, the accident, the Rome trip I had planned, how my family reacted, and how I canceled everything. He listened carefully, his expression growing more and more concerned. Then my phone rang again, Mom's name flashing on the screen. Without hesitation, Dr. Olivier picked it up. Hello, this is Dr. Olivier from Memorial Hospital. I need to ask you to stop calling. Your daughter needs rest and is about to have a second surgery. Even from across the room, I could hear Mom's sharp voice through the speaker. I don't care about any operation. Put my daughter on the phone right now. She needs to fix what she did to us. Dr. Olivier's face shifted first to shock, then disbelief, then anger. Without another word, he hung up. I'll be keeping this until after your surgery, he said firmly, slipping my phone into his pocket. You need to focus on healing, not dealing with this. For the next few days, everything was a blur of pain, meds, and sleep. Without my phone, I had no idea what was happening with my family in Rome. But honestly, the silence was healing in its own way. But life has a funny way of surprising you. Knock, knock. On my fourth day after surgery, Karine from marketing peeked into my room. We brought contraband, she whispered with a grin. She and Nick from accounting had sneaked in real coffee from the cafe down the street. The next day, Brittany and James from my team showed up with magazines and office gossip. The day after that, my cousin Mary, who I hadn't seen in months, came by with homemade soup. We've got a schedule worked out, Brittany said, holding up a color-coded spreadsheet on her tablet. Someone from the office will stop by every day. We can't have our best project manager getting lonely. For the first time in a long time, I felt cared for. I felt tears fill my eyes. You guys didn't have to do this, I began, but they brushed off my protest. After all you've done for us, this is nothing, James said. Even my boss, Mr. Ryan, had called the hospital. Emma, don't worry about a thing, he assured me, his usually gruff voice softer than normal. The accident happened during work hours, so our insurance covers you. You'll get a good payout to help with your recovery. On my fifth day without my phone, Dr. Olivia returned it. I think you're strong enough to handle this now, he said. I picked it up, seeing over 125 missed calls and countless messages. Their tone shifted over time from pleading to guilt tripping and finally to anger. Lily complained about bed bugs and gunshots, while Mom dramatized their struggles, blaming me for their suffering. The latest message demanded return tickets home, threatening consequences if I didn't comply. I sighed and put the phone down as Sophie from HR knocked on my door, holding a deck of cards and cookies. Ready to learn poker? She asked, grinning. I looked at her, then at my phone and made a choice. I turned it off completely and smiled, deal me in. I was actually having a good day when they burst in. My physical therapist had just finished our session and I felt proud of myself. I had managed to walk a few steps on my own. Then I heard the sound of rolling suitcases on the hospital floor. It was my only warning. Seconds later, they stormed into my room like a hurricane. How dare you? Mom's face was red with fury, still in her travel clothes. Right behind her, Lily dragged her designer suitcase, eyes blazing. The suitcase Lily was dragging, I had bought it for her last Christmas. Dad stood in the doorway, looking both angry and embarrassed. Nurse Kate, who had been adjusting my IV, quickly stepped between them and my bed. Lower your voices, she said firmly. This is a hospital, not a circus tent. But they didn't listen. 3 weeks of frustration exploded out of Lily like a burst dam. She's fine here. Lily threw her hands up, motioning around my private hospital room. Look at her, lying in a clean bed, getting 3 meals a day while we suffered. Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the painkillers giving me courage, or maybe I had finally had enough. Suffered. My voice was quiet but sharp. The room fell silent. Let's talk about suffering, shall we? I began, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. For the past year, I had worked myself to exhaustion, paying the bills, buying groceries, covering Lily's therapy sessions while she sat at home, turning down perfectly good jobs because they weren't perfect enough. Mom opened her mouth to speak, but I raised my hand. Not this time. I continued. I planned this trip as a gift. I spent months organizing everything. I paid for it all with my own money. Then I got into a serious accident, needed emergency surgery, and what did you do? Did you ask how I was feeling? Did you care if I was okay? No, you took Lily, the person who hasn't contributed a single penny to this family in over a year, on my vacation while I lay in a hospital bed. I could see the first flickers of shame on Mom's face, but it didn't last long. You can afford to go to Rome anytime, she snapped, adjusting her purse strap. This might have been our only chance. Then Lily, my own sister, delivered the final blow. Besides, you might have been left disabled after the accident. Then you definitely would have canceled everything. That's why I convinced Mom and Dad we should go while everything was still paid for. The room went dead silent. Even Mom looked shocked. My fingers trembled as I reached for the call button. The speaker crackled to life. Security, please. I need 4 people escorted out of my room and I want them added to the restricted visitors list. Emma, don't you dare, Mom started, but it was too late. 3 security guards stepped into the room. This patient is recovering from major surgery. One of them said firmly, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I watched as they were led away, Mom's angry voice echoing down the hall, Dad's silence saying everything, and Lily's protest fading as they disappeared from sight. The next day, I did something I should have done months ago. I blocked their numbers, all of them. My finger hovered over Dad's contact for a moment longer than the others, but in the end, his silence had been just as painful as their actions. Then I opened my banking app and canceled all the automatic payments I had set up for my family. No more monthly transfers for Lily's therapy, no more paying their utility bills, no more grocery money. I felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in a long time, I could breathe. About a month after I left the hospital, my phone buzzed with messages from cousins and family friends. Mom had taken her complaints to Facebook. My own daughter has abandoned us in our time of need, she wrote. After everything we've done for her, she has turned her back on her poor, struggling parents. Lily can't find work, bills are piling up, and Emma won't even return our calls. Some of her friends, who didn't know the truth, jumped in to comfort her. How terrible. After raising such an ungrateful child, family should always come first. I'll pray for your daughter to come back to you. I was about to close the app when a new comment popped up. It was from my cousin Mary. Aunt Linda, are you seriously playing the victim? You left Emma alone in the hospital after her car accident to go on a vacation she paid for? You took Lily instead of supporting your injured daughter. We all know what really happened. Then more relatives started commenting, sharing details about how I had supported my parents for a year while Lily refused to work, how I had planned the Rome trip as a gift, and how they visited me in the hospital while my own parents were off touring Europe. 3 days later, the post disappeared, but by then, screenshots were already spreading in the family group chat. Mom's plan to make herself the victim had backfired completely. 4 months after the accident, I walked into my office without my cane for the first time. My steps were steady, my head held high. All the physical therapy had paid off. I was finally back to normal, maybe even stronger than before. I expected a quiet first day back, maybe some small talk by the coffee machine. Instead, I walked in to find my entire team gathered around my desk. A massive cake sat in the middle, decorated with fondant flowers and a tiny figurine of a woman standing tall. Welcome back, Emma. My colleagues cheered as I entered the office. The sight of the beautifully decorated cake on my desk brought tears to my eyes. You guys, I started, but couldn't finish. Kareen hugged me gently while Nick began slicing the cake. Oh, and this came for you, Brittany said, handing me an envelope from the insurance company. Surrounded by my work family, I opened it and was amazed by the settlement amount more than I had expected. That night, with a piece of leftover cake, I browsed travel sites on my laptop. The luxury hotel in Rome I had booked before was available, and I secured a single room for 4 months later. This time, every experience will be exactly what I want, I murmured, smiling as I booked the tourist cheese tasting, wine tasting, and a private guide all tailored for a solo traveler. My phone buzzed with messages from my family, but I deleted them without responding. I was done managing their expectations. As confirmation emails rolled in, I felt only excitement. In 3 months, I'd be exploring Rome on my own terms. I deleted old family photos from my gallery, ready for new memories and adventures. I had learned that the family you choose, friends, and kind strangers can matter more than the family you're born into. Standing there, planning my trip, I knew I would never forget this lesson. Planning the solo trip to Rome was a liberating experience. I had always dreamed of traveling alone, exploring new places at my own pace, and indulging in experiences tailored just for me. This time, there were no compromises, no considerations for anyone else's preferences, just my desires and my itinerary. The luxury hotel in Rome, with its promise of elegance and comfort, was the perfect starting point. I imagined waking up to the soft Italian sunlight filtering through the windows, the scent of freshly brewed espresso wafting from the cafe downstairs. I would spend my mornings leisurely, perhaps reading a book or journaling my thoughts before venturing out into the bustling streets of Rome. The tours I had booked were not just sightseeing expeditions, but immersive experiences designed to engage all my senses. The cheese tasting tour was a gastronomic journey through Italy's rich culinary heritage. I envisioned myself sampling an array of cheeses, from the sharp and tangy to the creamy and mild, each bite telling a story of the region it came from. The wine tasting tour was an equally enticing prospect, offering a chance to savor the complex flavors of Italian wines, from the full-bodied reds to the crisp and refreshing whites. I look forward to learning about the winemaking process, the history behind each vineyard, and the passion that went into crafting every bottle. The private guide for the Piazza Navona and the skip the line passes for the Colosseum were luxuries I had always wanted to indulge in. With a knowledgeable guide by my side, I would gain insights into the architectural marvels and historical significance of these iconic landmarks. I imagined standing in the heart of the Colosseum, feeling the weight of history around me and marveling at the engineering prowess of the ancient Romans. The evening cruise on the Tiber was another highlight, promising a romantic and scenic journey along the river that had witnessed the rise and fall of empires. As I finalized my itinerary, I felt a sense of accomplishment and anticipation. This trip was more than just a vacation, it was a symbol of my independence, my resilience, and my ability to create my own happiness. It was a testament to the journey I had undertaken, shedding the burdens of the past and embracing a future filled with possibilities. The insurance settlement had provided me with the financial security to pursue this dream without any constraints. It was a reminder of the struggles I had endured and the strength I had discovered within myself. As I looked at the confirmation emails, I felt a profound sense of gratitude and empowerment. I was no longer the person who put everyone else's needs before her own. I was a woman who knew her worth, who valued her time and her experiences, and who was unafraid to pursue her passions. The day of my departure finally arrived, and I stood at the airport, my heart filled with excitement and a touch of nervousness. This was at the beginning of a new chapter in my life. As I boarded the plane, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had led me to this moment. The challenges, the hartashes, the moments of doubt and despair, they had all shaped me into the person I was today. And as the plane took off, soaring into the sky, I felt a sense of freedom and liberation. I was leaving behind the old Emma, the one who had carried the weight of her family's expectations and burdens. In her place was a woman ready to embrace the world on her own terms, to create memories that were uniquely hers, and to forge a path that was true to her spirit. Arriving in Rome was a dream come true. The city, with its rich history and vibrant culture, welcomed me with open arms. I checked into the luxury hotel, marveling at the opulence and comfort that awaited me. The room was a sanctuary, a place where I could unwind and reflect on the day's adventures. As I unpacked my belongings, I felt a sense of contentment and peace. This was my space, my time, and I was determined to make the most of it. Over the next few days, I immersed myself in the beauty and charm of Rome. I wandered through the narrow, cobblestone streets, discovering hidden gems and local treasures. I visited the iconic landmarks, each one more awe-inspiring than the last. The Colosseum, with its towering arches and ancient glory, left me speechless. The Piazza Navona, with its stunning fountains and lively atmosphere, was a feast for the senses. And the evening cruise on the Tiber, with its romantic ambience and breathtaking views, was an experience I would cherish forever. The cheese tasting tour was a culinary delight, introducing me to the diverse flavors and textures of Italian cheeses. I savored each bite, appreciating the craftsmanship and tradition behind every variety. The wine tasting tour was equally enchanting, offering a glimpse into the art of winemaking and the passion that went into creating each vintage. I indulged in the rich, velvety reds and the crisp, refreshing whites, each sip telling the story of the land and the people who had nurtured the vines. As I explored Rome, I found myself not just as a tourist, but as a seeker of experiences and connections. I struck up conversations with locals, eager to learn about their lives and their perspectives. I shared meals with fellow travelers, exchanging stories and laughter over plates of pasta and glasses of wine. I discovered that the joy of solo travel lay not just in the freedom and independence it offered, but also in the opportunities it presented for meaningful interactions and personal growth. Throughout my journey, I reflected on the lessons I had learned and the person I had become. I realized that the family you choose, the friends, the colleagues, the kind strangers who become more than strangers could be just as important, if not more so, than the family you were born into. I had found my tribe, my support system, in the people who had stood by me, who had believed in me, and who had encouraged me to pursue my dreams. Standing at a scenic viewpoint in Rome, looking out at the city lights, I felt a profound sense of peace and contentment. I had come a long way, both literally and metaphorically, and I was proud of the person I had become. I had learned the importance of self-care, of setting boundaries, and of choosing my own path. I had discovered my strength, my resilience, and my capacity for love and forgiveness. And as I gazed out at the city that had captured my heart, I knew that I was ready to embrace whatever challenges and adventures lay ahead. The ending was open, inviting reflection and suggesting personal growth. As I stood there, ready to create new memories and forge new paths on my own terms,